Morning, Mr. Lewis.
Guilty as
No.
charged.
After making stunning remarks about Caitlin, the profile reporter was abruptly fired. While Clark was battling a violent stalker who traveled across states to find her, this reporter had the audacity to demand something which infuriated the entire sports world. Unimaginable. Stay put. This narrative will make you furious.
So it looked like two reporters is under fire for their comments about Caitlin Clark's stalker situation.
Let's examine this troubling circumstance that has been in the news in detail. Before we get into the reporter drama, let me give you an idea of how serious this situation was. Caitlin Clark, the basketball sensation who's been breaking records left and right, recently dealt with something that no one should ever have to deal with: a stalker who traveled all the way from Texas to Indiana to harass her. This stalker wasn't just sending a few messages. We're talking about hundreds of obsessive tweets. He would constantly post things like, "We are in love," and "You're very intelligent" on Clark's social media accounts. The harassment got so bad that X, the former Twitter, had to take action and delete his account.
And there was a guy that was stalking her that actually flew to Indianapolis and was sending her the tweets, and she was so scared she had to change her identity in person. So that guy actually went to court, and this is wild. Take a listen to this man in court.
Morning, Mr. Lewis.
Guilty as
No.
Guilty.
Sir, this is initial hearing.
Oh.
You have a right to remain silent, and I expect you to exercise that. Okay, this is just telling you what the charges are. You do not listen. I'll give you a chance to talk. Not your
Throw
time.
me the bookie.
Stop
Throw me the
talking.
bookie.
You have a right to know what your charges are. You are charged with stalking as a level 5 felony.
Police files reveal a pattern of increasing conduct that began on social media but swiftly evolved into something far more serious, demonstrating that this was not just your average enthusiastic fan. Sinister. This guy wasn't satisfied with just harassing Clark online. He actually packed up his car and drove across several states to find him. Clark followed the advice of experts and reported this to the police right away. She didn't wait around or remain silent. Instead, she took action. And guess what? The authorities arrested the Texas man who was causing all of this harassment. However, this is where the story takes an even darker turn.
Because remember, they went to the hotel the first time and gave him like a warning. He had to be kind of getting a little crazy in the warning, because how you walk into the judge like, "Throw me the book."
Throw me the book.
I'm
He
here
said,
to-
guilty.
I'm here to check in.
He might have a boo. He might have a boo in there.
Why are we wasting taxpayer dollars? Is what
Word.
he's saying. I'm guilty. Let's speed this up. I want to go back to sleep.
They gonna say he was very erratic. One of the TV stations in Indianapolis said he was very erratic during his first court appearance. He was very calm.
He looked like he knew what he was
He knew
doing.
exactly what he wanted
All
to
I
say.
saw was accountability. Okay, that's all I saw and heard. I watched that video like 8 times.
The court documents showed that this wasn't just a haphazard decision to drive to Indiana. This guy had been planning this for weeks, mapping out Clark's possible locations, attempting to figure out her daily routine, and even trying to find out where she lived. We're talking about someone who is completely obsessed and potentially dangerous. And when the police finally caught up with him, they discovered some pretty disturbing stuff in his car. He had maps marked with potential locations where Clark might be, screenshots of her social media posts printed out, and even some personal items that he claimed were gifts for her. This is the kind of stuff you see in crime documentaries, not something you expect to happen to a college basketball star. In court, this man actually attempted to defend his behavior by arguing that he was merely a devoted fan who wished to help Clark's career, but the facts revealed otherwise. The hundreds of texts that remain unanswered monitoring her moves obsessively despite being in the midst of an incredible season where she was breaking records left and right. Clark had to deal with this terrifying situation behind the scenes. She continued to play amazing basketball while taking the necessary precautions to protect herself. The cross-country stalking trip was obviously harassment, plain and simple. What's really important to understand is how Clark handled this situation. The basketball community first came together in support of Clark, his coaches, players, and fans. Security was tightened at games, and everyone was on high alert. It seemed like almost everyone understood how serious the situation was. This leads us to the media coverage of the incident. The majority of reporters handled it with the tact it required, reporting the facts, stressing the significance of taking stalking seriously, and respecting Clark's privacy. However, this NBC reporter Natalie Esquire chose to adopt a different tack.
Caitlyn is not a victim as a rookie. But then when you also elbow people and then you keep on talking all the way down the court, like, you're not a victim. So then for you to go into the post game and be like, yeah, well, I don't want to retaliate. Like, I know people are going to come for me and I just got to let it be what it is. But the people that retaliate are the ones that get in trouble.
Like, Caitlyn, you're weaponizing how people view you and are talking about you when you say something like that. F around and find out. Kennedy is an isolated incident. That little shoulder bump, It was not that serious. You fell down, the first thing you did is, and you look to the damn refs to give you what? That's what happened. And you look, and that's what she always does, right? She's always falling to the floor, and then people acting like it's mad hard. It's like, pay attention to what she did in college. I would say that her coach did not do a good job preparing her for the physicality of what was to come and what to expect in the WNBA.
During what ought to have been a direct conversation regarding athlete safety and stalking. Instead of emphasizing the gravity of stalking or complimenting Clark for managing the situation appropriately, Esquire made remarks that left her co-hosts and viewers in disbelief. She suggested that Clark should talk publicly about her experience. Let's now examine why this comment was so problematic. First of all, we are discussing an ongoing legal matter. Any attorney would advise victims to exercise caution when speaking in public while an investigation is ongoing, but more significantly, no stalking victim should ever feel under duress to disclose their pain to the public. The co-host jumped in right away to try to salvage the situation by pointing out that nobody should be expected to discuss this in public. You could see the uneasiness on their face as they attempted to refocus the conversation, but the damage had already been done. What's even more troubling is that this wasn't Esquire's first dubious remark about Clark referencing her earlier coverage. A trend of subtly critical remarks and pointless jabs has been seen. She seemed to be trying to undercut Clark's achievement because she was upset about it, but the sports world wasn't having it, and within hours of the show's showing, social media was ablaze with condemnation. In order to clarify why Esquire's remarks were so damaging, former players began talking about their own experiences with harassment and stalking. Fans began looking up Esquire's earlier remarks regarding Clark making compilation videos, demonstrating a pattern of unfavorable coverage after sports journalists from other networks pointed out the insensitivity of implying that a stalking victim should speak out. College basketball coaches have shown their support for safeguarding the mental health and privacy of their players. Even organizations that assist victims of stalking issued statements denouncing the idea that victims should have to tell their stories in public. This entire situation sparked a broader discussion about how female athletes are treated in the media. It's not just about the stalking incident. It's about the expectations placed on women in sports. They're supposed to be amazing athletes and ideal role models, and now it seems they're supposed to share their traumatic experiences for public consumption. As more people saw the video and realized how inappropriate the remarks were, the backlash grew, with parents of young athletes raising concerns about how such remarks might deter young women from reporting stalking or harassment out of fear of being pressured to do so. Within 48 hours of the broadcast airing, NBC made its decision after being inundated with critical comments on their social media accounts and calls for action from sports journalists from other networks. The court transcripts from the Stalker arraignment show that this man showed up believing what he did was somehow romantic. He actually told the judge he was trying to support her career. The delusion is mind-blowing. Esquire was fired, and they released a statement saying they take the safety and privacy of athletes seriously. Comments suggesting victims should speak publicly about their trauma don't align with their values. However, this story goes deeper than just one reporter losing their job. Just 2 months, that's nearly 100 tweets a day. Let me break down some of these messages for you, and trust me, they get creepy real fast. This guy would watch every single game and tweet about every move Clark made on the court, but it wasn't just basketball commentary. He'd talk about her hair, her expressions, even try to guess what she was thinking. He created this whole fantasy relationship in his head, the police investigation revealed. He'd even made multiple fake accounts to try to interact with Clark. After she blocked his main account, he'd use these accounts to comment on her posts, trying to make it seem like different people were all saying the same things about her. It was a coordinated harassment campaign by one seriously obsessed individual. Now get this, during his arrest, they found a notebook in his car, pages and pages of writings about Clark. He'd collected every newspaper article, every stat, every social media post. He could find he had her game's schedule mapped out for the entire season with notes about potential plaque she might visit in each city. This isn't just crossing a line. What does our fired NBC reporter suggest Clark should do to share this horrible experience? This is going too far and into dangerous terrain. Many people are unaware that when stalking victims talk about their experiences in public, it can occasionally encourage their stalkers, who often view any recognition, even negative attention, as a form of connection. Talk openly about your fear of knowing that someone is obsessively following your every move, and describe how it feels to need extra security at games because someone drove across the country to stalk you. The suggestion is not just tone deaf, it's potentially dangerous. The stalker was already exhibiting symptoms of this, according to mental health specialists who examined this case. Behavior seeing any reference to his acts as evidence of a connection. According to court filings, this man had previously attempted to get in touch with Clark's family members, teammates, and even her coaches. He would write lengthy messages outlining his relationship with Clark in an attempt to persuade them to allow him to see her. When they blocked him, he would make new accounts and try again. The same Clark who was attempting to concentrate on leading her team, breaking records, and getting ready for the WNBA draft. The same Clark who handled the entire situation perfectly by reporting it to authorities and letting them handle it, thought it would be a good idea for Clark to speak publicly about this. This is the kind of obsessive behavior that escalates, and publicity can make it worse. Let's talk about how Clark actually dealt with this situation, because it's pretty impressive. While all this was happening behind the scenes, she kept playing at an elite level. She didn't let this creep steal her joy or derail her success. She took the necessary legal steps to protect herself and trusted the system to work. The security footage from the ARA, where they finally caught this guy, is pretty chilling. He had actually managed to get into the building during a practice session, thankfully. Security was already on high alert thanks to Clark's report, and they spotted him before he could get anywhere near her. They found zip ties and duct tape in his car. I'll let you connect those dots yourself. When the news of his arrest broke, most media outlets handled it responsibly. They reported the basic facts, emphasized the importance of taking stalking seriously, and respected Clark's privacy. They focused on the broader issue of athlete safety and the increasing challenges female athletes face with obsessive fans in the social media age. Some outlets even brought on security experts to discuss how athletes can protect themselves. They talked about the importance of reporting suspicious behavior early, keeping records of harassment, and working with security teams. It was responsible journalism that could actually help other athletes who might face SAR situations. But instead of following this example, Esquire decided to criticize Clark for not sharing her story publicly. She actually suggested that Clark had some sort of obligation to speak out, as if being a victim of stalking somehow makes you responsible for educating the public. It's this kind of backward thinking that often keeps victims from coming forward. The response from other female athletes was powerful. A number of WNBA players talked about their personal encounters with stalkers and devoted fans. They discussed the anxiety that comes with someone always watching you and how it impacts your day-to-day activities. They applauded Clark for managing the situation the way she did, and denounced any notion that victims should tell their story to the public. Even male athletes came forward to support Clark. Several NBA players shared their personal stories of dealing with stalkers and obsessive fans. They stressed that this is a serious safety issue that affects all public figures, not just women, but also acknowledged that female athletes frequently experience more severe and ongoing harassment. The police chief in charge of the case actually came forward to commend Clark's actions, stating that her prompt reporting and collaboration with law enforcement allowed them to apprehend the man before the situation could worsen, and that he used it as an example of how victims of stalking should respond to such circumstances. Report it, record everything, and leave it to the experts. But maybe the most effective reaction came from groups that work to prevent stalking. They were outraged by Esquire's remarks. They pointed out that recommending that victims talk about their experiences in public can actually put them in danger. They also described how stalkers frequently use media coverage to feed their obsessions, turning any public statement into evidence of their imagined relationship. Ultimately, this whole situation revealed a larger issue in sports media. There is a tendency to treat athletes like public property, as if being good at sports somehow means you owe the world every detail of your personal life. This is especially true for female athletes, who frequently endure harsh scrutiny and irrational expectations both on and off the court. NBC's choice to dismiss Esquire makes a strong point by implying that stalker victims have a duty to disclose their trauma in public, which is unacceptable. This serves as a reminder that just because someone is well-known does not mean that they owe us their personal suffering. We live in a world where boundaries are more important than ever, and Clark's story demonstrates why. If you're as passionate about this as I am, hit the like button, join our community by clicking subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments section, and consider whether NBC should have fired the reporter sooner. I'll see you in the next video. Clark's story isn't about what she should say about her stalker. Rather, it's about how she protected herself and continued to succeed in spite of this terrifying situation.